already know just where I be, dog. I ain't being cocky, but Philly what I'm reppin'. Watch me check it like it's hockey. I ain't tryna get it twisted. If you get it, then you got me. If you with it, cool. If not, I'll treat you like a Tamagotchi. I'ma let you down point. Yeah, I never disappoint.
What's going on, guys? J-Hoy back with you today. Today's video is one I have done before. However, we're changing it up a little bit. So the last time I did one of these, we did a how to improve be a pro. And this one, we are doing a how to improve franchise mode. So this is probably my second most played game mode behind HUT and just above EASHL. And franchise mode, I love dearly. You know, I grew up playing it. I love the managing part of it. So let's get right into it and talk about what we need to fix. Now here we are on the main menu of the Be a GM mode, or the franchise mode. And overall, I'm not going to critique every little tiny thing like I did in Be a Pro mode. Like I tried not to in that at least, but I kind of did anyway. But either way, let's get right into it. So first of all, the overall setup of the franchise mode, I don't have a problem with. I'd like it if they could put, you know, realistic pictures or at least something playing in the background, so it's not just like a white screen with a menu over it. So if they could improve that a little bit, just add a little bit more color other than white and various other tiny little colors, that would be fantastic. However, let's get right into the first thing. I want to give a little bit of a, I guess, a little warning. Sure, let's go with warning that I did make my list of stuff I wanted to mention in this video before EA announced, or I guess put out their teaser trailer for franchise mode. So some things that I am going to talk about are actually in the mode. So before you write a comment and say, hey, that's already in the mode, I know, I'm just going to mention it briefly. So first off, let's just start out with the expansion draft and I guess the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And just like Be a Pro, where you have 3 options to get drafted, in Be a GM now, or franchise mode, there's going to be 3 options, to where the first option is you can just start as whatever team you want and build that team of however you want. The second one is you start as the Golden Knights and kind of redo the expansion draft and protect, you know, different players and whatever the case. And the third one is to make a 30-second team in the NHL and build yourself your own team, you know, do the expansion draft and build yourself an AHL team, which I thought was pretty cool, and make everything just your own and not just make yourself an NHL team, but then not have anything else to your name. So that part I did find really cool. That is awesome. However, the next thing I'm going to talk about is in the GM mode. Let's just kind of start right into it. And this is a kind of a thing I thought, along with this, you know, what we'll get to later, that should have been in the game for a long time, and it's the realistic coaches. Now this kind of has to do with HUT a little bit too, how they have coaches in there, but imagine if you had the coach option in your franchise mode. Now pretend you go over here to owner or to whatever the case, and it says coaching staff, to where all of a sudden you have your coach, or I should say your head coach, your assistant coach. Imagine if they put in, you know, training staff, and they put in, you know, a scouting staff or scouts of some sort, right? That would be absolutely amazing. However, in the current franchise mode, there's nothing like that. There's just like one scout that doesn't really do anything except for scout whatever you tell them to. Instead, there's not a scouting staff, to where you get more of a rounded, I guess, scouting report back. Now, adding coaches, I think it's in Madden that they do it with a head coach, the assistant coach, and, you know, all that stuff. That would be very beneficial to the game, because pretend, you know, you're doing well for like 5 years and your team starts to go downhill a little bit. Imagine if you could just kind of, instead of trading, you know, some players or switching up the team that way, because I just got done playing through a Carolina Hurricanes franchise mode, and I actually relocated them because they sucked and they weren't going to be good there. Well, I actually made it to the playoffs the first year somehow, and we won the Stanley Cup. And then we end up relocating after, I think it was like 2 or 3 years of being into the mode. And I was good for a while, and then all of a sudden I just, out of nowhere, sucked. Like, there was no difference between doing well and just sucking. And nothing really changed. I mean, a couple of players were different, but it wasn't like a completely new team or, you know, a terrible goalie or, you know, I didn't change up strategies. It was like a complete 180 to where I was just dominating the league, you know, 50 wins per season, you know, absolutely dominating. And then out of nowhere, my team just sucked. There was nothing changed, right? I had pretty much the same core team, except for, like I said, a couple of different people here and there, to whether it was a fourth liner or a third liner. I didn't really change up my top 6 forwards or my top 4 D-man for a while. And with Carolina, they have a very good young top 4. So I didn't change up much in the first few years to when I was doing well, and then I randomly started sucking. So I did whatever I could to try to make my team do better, and there was nothing really to do because I traded away my goalie. Like, I got a good goalie. I think I got Corpusello from Columbus, and he obviously is really good in the game. And, you know, I got a good backup. I had a good defense. I had good forwards. I had, you know, good strategies. I had good everything, but yet my team just didn't work. So imagine if you could put coaches in the game to where you could fire that coach, hire a new one, and maybe that just change of coaching staff would propel your team to do better. So if they added, you know, a hire/fire coach option, that would be fantastic. Even better if they had real coaches. So the coaches of your favorite NHL teams have those in the actual game mode. And having assistant coaches and scouting staff would be great too, but obviously not needed. But definitely coaches is something I would definitely wish to have in a Be a GM mode. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is something that is going to be in the game, but like I said, I have a couple of things that are going to be in the game mode that I made my list beforehand, and this is one of them. So contract extensions, finally, after I don't even know how many years of myself and a lot of other people wishing to be able to extend your contracts early other than in free agency, finally you can do it in NHL 18. So guys, you don't want to lose your superstars, your players that play good minutes for you, that you want to keep, that you have to go to free agency with, or to restricted free agency, whichever the case. I'm glad it's finally in the game. Contract extensions, you know, with 1 year left, is just, the only word I can think about it is just finally. So it's great to see that in the game. And that kind of leads right into our next thing with contract negotiations. Now, I'm going to go to the free agency real quick and then we'll continue. So at free agency, this is what we get, right? You have the screen, you have all of your free agents, you can sort of buy whatever you want. But let's just pretend this is the off-season free agency. So at July 1st, just pretend this is the free agency. And in this case, the top one is James Wisniewski by a couple overall. Now, James Wisniewski in this game right now is an 85 overall. And for most teams, that would be a second liner or a first liner. Now, in his case, he wants $4.8 million. Now, in this case, if I was going to offer him a contract, I'd probably offer him around a $4.5 million, if not a $4 million for like 2 or 3 years. In this case, if I needed a right-handed defenseman to play on my second line, or even first line if my team sucked that badly. But let's just pretend we offered him $4 million, right? $4 million, that's still a pretty good contract. You know, a 1 year, 2 year deal at $4 million for a free agent, like that's pretty darn good. However, if he doesn't accept this $4 million deal, there's not really any counter offer there. It's like, he wants 4.8, I offered him 4, then he says, you know, how about 4.5? And then if he didn't, you know, if I didn't accept 4.5, imagine if I offer him 4.25, right? That's half of 4.5, and, you know, it's a little bit of more money. So imagine if he says, okay, I'll accept that deal. Okay, that's great. Contract negotiations. So if that was, you know, the case with any player, that would be great. But instead of just rejecting the contract, how about they make a counter offer? Now, I'm not saying, you know, if I offer him 4.3 and he offers 4.275, like that'd be stupid. But if there's a case where it's like I just explained, to to where he wants 4.8 and I offer him 4 million, and then he comes in at 4.5 and I want to accept that offer, that's a good little, you know, contract negotiation. That would be cool. Not needed, but very cool. This also kind of leads into my next point, kind of set that up perfectly. I know for a fact that you can see what teams are interested in certain players. So if this was the free agent time, or even during the season with these free agents, you can see what teams have made them a contract, which means the other teams are interested. Now, the part I'd like to see upgraded is, yes, you can see the team that's interested in a certain player, but one thing I would love to see is the team, what their offer is, and the likeliness that they're gonna sign with that team. So in this case, we have Wisniewski. Probably should have picked an easier name to say, like 7 or something. But either way, we got James here. And imagine if he says, you know, other teams interested, just say Pittsburgh, Washington, and Anaheim, right? And they say, you know, 1-year deals at 4.75 mil, 1 year at 4.5 mil, and then 1 at 4 mil, right? It just random contracts. And he's more likely to sign a lower, just imagine, he wants to sign a lower deal with a better team rather than a big deal with an awful team, if that makes sense. So adding like a likeliness to sign, I guess, feature would be wonderful, because you see, you know, his overall with his green, I guess mostly a circle there, that shows like how good he is, which is kind of unneeded but also kind of cool. That if you could take that concept and add it to under the other team's interested part, and I'll probably throw in, you know, I'll add it to the graphic here, but imagine you could see what teams are interested, what their offer is, and the likeliness to sign that. Or also put in, I want to go to a blank team. So a playoff team, a neutral team, or a rebuilder team. Like to have all those different types of teams and make it so he only wants to go to certain teams. And for different players, that might be different, right? So with James here, he might want to go to a playoff team. To whereas, you know, Ehrhoff down here doesn't care where he goes. Or, you know, a player down here with Zubris only wants to go to, you know, a team that has a possibility at the playoffs. So if there's like a different, I guess, different way to sign free agents, that would be cool. Add a new element to signing guys rather than just sign the best guy. Because if I need a right-handed defenseman right now, okay, so what do? Okay, we go to defense. And if you don't know these players, you have to click on every single one of them. But I know Wisniewski's a right-handed defenseman. Then I don't think there's another one until Brookbank down here. So it's like, okay, my best option is Wisniewski, I think. Not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. So that would be awesome. So that'd be a cool element, but again, not needed, but that'd be something I'd really like in the game. Now, the next thing was kind of briefly mentioned in the video, and it had to do with deeper development and later round picks actually becoming NHL players later down the line. To whereas, you know, a guy like Nolan Patrick or Nico Hischier that are most likely going to play in the NHL this year, that those guys are NHL ready. To whereas the guy that's at the bottom down here, this guy, Stelio, but can we pick a name that's not awful? So a guy like Josh Curtis here, instead of having him NHL ready, just say in 5 years, he'll get up to the point where he's on the bubble. Or if, let's just about take this guy, Dakota Krebs, whatever. Imagine if it takes him, you know, 3 years. To whereas you use your AHL team to develop your players rather than just sign every prospect you get and hope they become something. Now tell me, you know, this guy's going to take 2.5 years to get up to this overall. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they talked about deeper development to where some guys get drafted up at the top of drafts and then only turn out to be like an 82 overall or something like that. And it's like, okay, that's good for like a third line in NHL 17. But guys there at the bottom that don't really have a chance, that just get up to like mid-70s and then just do nothing. So then by the time that they get to that peak of their career, you have more guys that outdo them and outperform them. So then you just release the other guys. But instead, have guys that take, just say, an extra year or two to get to that point, to get to being on the bubble of NHL ready. at least when I play, if you get to be about 24, 25 and you're not above the overall of 75, I don't keep you, right? I have a system to where I like to develop my own players. I like to draft my own players. I don't like to just go trade for everyone. But if there's a good trade involved, then obviously I'll explore that. But I like to get guys that I can bring up through my organization to where they can play in my AHL system or in the junior for the first year if they're on that type of contract. And I want to bring them up through my system, through my team, and work their way up to the NHL. Now, some players do that, some players don't. Some people just want to get the best available. They'll trade all of their picks to get the highest round draft picks they can, and then they don't really work for it. They don't develop their players. Now, I'm a person that loves to develop their players. Now, with a deeper development system, that means they have to improve the growth system of the prospects. Now, not only do they have to improve the growth system, but they have to improve prospect scouting, because as you guys know, there's this one screen. Maybe it's a little bit different, if you do it from, the screen where it says, either okay or, edit prospects or whatever, edit scouting assignment, right? You get that little like pop-up to let you know when your scouting's done. That's cool and all, but once you go to this screen, you get to see the entire map, right? The WHL, all the junior teams here. You see the US, which doesn't really mean much because they don't have the USHL in the game, which is another thing would be really cool to add. But you have mainly the juniors, which has the most amount of prospects possible. Then you get over to the the more foreign leagues, to where there's a bunch of prospects, a good amount. Get over to Russia, there's a okay amount. I mean, not really much. The rest of the world, there's one defenseman. However, in the actual draft, I don't know how many prospects are draft eligible for per year, but there's a lot more than that. There should be at least the same numbers in the juniors as in, most of these other places, because if you look at, the amount of people that get drafted, just say in the first round, that come from anywhere else but the juniors, it's a pretty remarkable number. So there's so many different types of prospects from all over the world. Yet why is the juniors, the CHL, the Canadian Hockey League, or it might be something different, but the WHL, the OHL, and the QMJHL, why are these so flooded with players, but then there's no one else really anywhere else? Like, then the SHL has the second most, I'm pretty sure, behind all of the juniors. But then, like, what doesn't make sense is as you go on in a BIA GM series, these numbers of 200, 130, 41 will get down to numbers like, who did I just see? Like this, and then nationally, to where there's like 20 forwards, there's like 15 defensemen, and there's like 2 goalies. That doesn't make sense. Don't you think as time would go on, more people would be interested in it, or about the same? Now, I'm not expecting, this exact numbers for the WHL every year, like 216 forwards, 128 defensemen, and 41 goalies. I'm not expecting that every year, but I'm expecting, a good amount of players from each region, and not just them dwindle down to like nobody. That just completely unrealistic, and just overall just doesn't make sense, because if anything, those numbers would be going up. There'd be more people interested in it. And also, how is there only one person from the rest of the world in this scouting report? There's one person, one player, one defenseman. Rest of the world, okay, so you got all of China, you got Japan, you got everywhere in South America, in Africa, if there's anyone, in France and Spain, and anywhere, all this region that I have no clue what it's populated there, but like, is that the Middle East? I'm pretty sure. But all of over, under Russia and above the oceans, where's all those players? There's got to be more than one player. There's got to be a hockey league over there somewhere. Like, there's one in Italy, I'm pretty sure. But then the closest thing is the National League. There's definitely another league over there. There's so many leagues in the world that these, like, 10 or whatever it is, don't do it justice. So, add more. Please. Like, if you're just going to add them to the rest of the world, okay, fine. but there's got to be more than one player in the rest of the world, right? There should be more prospects that are draft eligible than what there is here. So add a better system for scouting, add more people or randomly generated players in these scoutings, and just overall make this better, because I'm so sick of seeing scouting reports that get down to this National League level completely, right? You have 200 people per thing over here in the juniors, yet you only have 22 and 14 and 5. That just doesn't make sense. So leading right into the next thing we're going to talk about, and this is another thing I'd like to see added to the game, and there hasn't really been anything like this that I know of. Now in Madden, they have things called hot streaks or cold streaks, to where players are on or off their game. Now this is something I wish they would add to NHL, mainly because if your team's not doing so well, just say in the month of November, right? You get a month in, you do well. However, the second month you start to slack a little bit, that you could see what players are doing what. Now, I'm not just talking about going to the stats like I am now and looking at it. So it's like, okay, Carlsted's more than a point per game. Broussard's more than a point per game. Ryan's point per game. But then everyone else kind of just slacks off a little bit. Now, what I want to see is, okay, so you look at your centers. Like, okay, Turris is a #1 center, so he's, you know, not doing terrible, but he's still not doing better than Broussard. So let's just say Broussard, next to his name or next to somewhere, you put a little fire symbol to say he's on fire, right? He's doing very well right now. But a guy like Pajot, maybe if he's playing 4th line and he's not doing anything, or if he's playing 3rd line and not doing anything, then that would be a different case, to where he's cold, right? He's not in his game right now. So imagine if you go to your lines, your edit lines, and you see your lines, right? And like we were just talking about, Derek Broussard, he's playing 2nd line. However, he's more than a point per game. So next to his name, put a little fire thing. Whereas, you know, another player that maybe not performing nearly as well, or not to expectation, I guess, put a little cold or a little, like, what would it be, a snowflake next to his name, indicating that he's cold right now. So if your first line's not working, or if Broussard's playing better than this guy, or if this 3rd liner's playing better than Ryan, then you could just flip up some of your lines, you know, something crazy, right? There's got to be an easier way to tell what your team's doing wrong, rather than just looking at the stats and be like, okay, and actually writing down everything to where you keep track like every month. That just is too much work for this. So if there was an easy way to see that a guy's on fire or a guy's cold, that would be a great feature to add to the game. Now that's all I have for today, guys. I think I'm going to do one more before the NHL 18 full release comes out. And it'll probably be on EASHL, because there is a lot of things that we have to talk about in there. Either that or Hut. Most likely Hut. I might be able to squeeze in 2 of them. If you have something that's kind of close to mine, but there's a little bit of a different take on it, let me know that as well. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that little bell next to it. I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. If you did enjoy, hit that like button. Comment below what you guys thought of the video. And also, let me know what you guys would like to see in a franchise mode, or be a GM mode, as I like to call it. And let me know if you guys have something that I maybe has said, but you have a little bit of a different twist on it. So if you have something to do with like coaches, or, you know, better systems, or, you know, whatever the case is, if you guys have any idea, or maybe something that I didn't even look at, or something that you think would just absolutely improve the game mode, let me know that down in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that little bell next to it, and we'll see you next time.
Jumping off the porch like mom's not home. Just a couple kids living on our own. Summer nights, love them how they take so long.